What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Kaizen Life. I am still Guy Rogers, and hopefully you enjoyed the last video. I enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed sort of sharing a bit of my background and so on, and obviously I'm going to continue to do that, and also talk about the style that I teach and so on, and my experience in martial arts. Some feedback and something that I completely forgot and I should have mentioned at the time, but one of the major components of foot and fist boxing, the style that I used to teach, was Savate, French kickboxing, which the guy that developed the style, Paul Garillo, was obviously extremely well versed in it. And so a lot of the kicks that we use are based on Savate. So it was a bit misleading of me to say that they were Shotokan karate kicks, and my good friend Daniel Shibilia, who is also a black belt in my style, pointed out that I totally forgot to mention that. Thank God we did not have to wear the Savate uniforms, which I'm going to show you right now. They are not very nice. But anyway, so yeah, I wanted to make that clear. The other thing I wanted to have a chat about quickly is also what Kaizen itself means, because the Kaizen life and Kaizen MMA and all that sort of thing probably is a new concept to a lot of people. So there's different interpretations of it. My personal interpretation when I first read it was basically Kaizen is kind of a philosophy of the continual search for perfection, but without actually ever achieving it, which to me really sums up what martial arts is about. No one ever gets perfect at martial arts. We always strive to be better. And it's actually a philosophy I believe a car company, possibly Toyota, someone correct me if I'm wrong, came up with. And I really love that philosophy. So when I started my MMA club in Brisbane, I wanted it to be more about the development of the human spirit and the physical and the mental than just martial arts. And that Kaizen philosophy really stuck with me. So I just wanted to explain a bit about that. Obviously, if there's any questions or I've misquoted that, tell me in the comments. Love to hear about it. I'm going to show a real quick clip that I found the other day, which explains our roundhouse kick and the setup for our kicks. A lot of what we do is off the front leg, as I've explained, but this little clip really explains why we do that. And I've got a good friend that I work with that also did Sanshou, and he sort of looked at the style that I did and said, well, that's very similar to what he does. So he and I sparring, it's like fighting myself. It's fantastic. But this is just a little clip with one of my old students. I put it up a while ago, but I hope you get a bit out of it, just so that you sort of start to understand why we do some of the things we do.
Okay, so we're going to go through the Kaizen or foot and fist roundhouse. It is very different from other styles insofar as it's not a power kick, it's more a speed kick that uses our range really effectively. So as Ryder was telling me in Taekwondo, when they throw a roundhouse, they rock back and kick there, yeah, which is good, but you lose a bit of range out of it. So when we throw the foot and fist kick, from competition stance, which I'm not going to go into, we replace our back foot with our front foot and our knee comes straight up, yeah? So what that does is means that our front kick is the same as our roundhouse kick, is the same as our hip kick. So they're all the same setup. So what we're going to do is come up, and knee comes straight up and turn out. So all it is, as I already explained it, is that turns, yeah? So it's that rotation that lands the kick. The reason we do it that way is because we don't come across the center line of the body. So I'm not trying to kick out to there, I'm just going to there and back again. Which means that I can throw multiple kicks off the front leg without having to readjust. So that sort of technique is what we use a lot around cast side kicks and so on. So from a pure technical point of view, we come straight up, there, and back down. Yeah, front foot replaces back. The reason we do that is if you put your hand out there, my range, so here I'm at a striking distance. I'm no longer at a striking distance, my foot easily gets to your head. Yeah? So we bring ourselves away from the target, if that makes sense.
So hopefully that's a nice little explanation of our roundhouse kick. In foot and fist boxing, we have a huge amount of kicks. Most of them, are from different styles that you would know. We're talking about roundhouse hook kicks, side kicks, spinning back kicks. We do a lot of 1-2 combinations, so multiple kicks at the same time off the front legs. So sometimes you'll see me throw double kicks, which is very karate-esque, I think. I use back leg kicks because I know that they have a lot more power. I feel like I drive a lot more power because I can rotate my hip a lot more through it. And that's, I think, why Muay Thai has such powerful kicks, because they can rotate the hip through the kick completely. Obviously, the downside to our style is that it's very much a distance-orientated style. So essentially, we need to be, at a distance, at a kicking distance. Once someone closes in on me, then it makes it harder for me to work my style. And I know that that's a deficiency of it. And I'm going to put up a little clip of a guy that I train with very regularly, named Steve Newman. He's going to hopefully be able to come on, and we're going to do some interviews and so on, because he's very knowledgeable in martial arts. The reason I'm putting this up is because he is a traditional kickboxer and boxer. So he's a very pressure fighter. So this is just an example of, I guess, how I tried to adapt to his style, not always successfully. He taught me a lot and really inspired me to start learning a lot more about head movement, footwork, that sort of thing. So I'm going to put that up. I've realized in YouTube, you're not allowed to put music up. So I'm going to talk through it a little bit and commentate the sparring as we go. So I hope you enjoy this. I love sparring this guy. It's always a lot of fun. Yeah, hope you enjoy it too. Okay, so as you can see, Steve is an orthodox fighter, whereas I'm a southpaw fighter. The front kick I'm using just to stop him from coming in and feeling like he can pressure me too quickly, but he's fearless, like he doesn't care. So as you can see, he moves in quick. I'm trying to keep my range on him, but he's such a good pressure fighter that I'm using my kicks to keep that distance. But as you can see, he's also a very, very good kicker. I try to use a style where I don't like to display whether or not I can fight, so my hands are down, so on. So from a self-defense point of view, I guess that means that I get the element of surprise. It doesn't look like I know what I'm doing, and then I, can use my techniques. This was back when the club was pretty packed, so obviously we had to move around a lot, which is good insofar as it gave you the feeling that, let's say you had a fight in a nightclub, there were people around, you had to use that distance. As you can see, Steve's combinations, handwork and so on are really good. He uses his head movement a lot. I don't, and looking back at it now, I really should have a lot more. But traditionally, foot and fist boxing was very linear. It was very backwards and forwards. When I started to teach, I wanted to move around a lot more. So that's why we start to use a lot of lateral movement here. So I love that jab, love that, cross jab, trying to fake him out with the other hand. I switch stances a lot, but Steve that was a great little combo, double leg kicks to stop me from pressuring on a bit. Very clever of him. And as you can see, he moves around, cuts his angles well to try to find an opening. Again, I'm using that hands down sort of thing so that he doesn't know what's coming. But his reflexes are great, so it doesn't help that much, let's be honest. So again, I've switched stance because my power hand is now back, and I also throw a lot of kick techniques off that front lead, so that sort of hook kick. Don't do that when you throw a hook kick. If you fall over, it's not a great thing. I was probably not trying to be a bit of a hero, and that's what happened. Love that low kick to punch combination. Really nice to get their attention down low. Switching the hip out. Lyoto Machida used to do that a lot. I don't know if this was before or after I started following him. I probably mimicked him, let's be honest. That side kick is also one of my favorites. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, big user of that, and very, very effective. It's a solid kick. I personally love that side kick. I think it's one of the most effective kicks because it's really good. It's hard to see coming. It's a straight line kick, so it's not winding out to the side. It's not utilized very often by many fighters in MMA, and I don't know why that is, other than I think maybe MMA mainly train in Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, BJJ. It's pretty rare that you'll get someone, a club like, Greg Jackson or something teaching traditional karate styles. I could be completely wrong. I don't know Greg Jackson, but you don't see it very often. And I really love that side kick. I think it's a great one. But I also look back at that video, and that's obviously quite a while ago. As you can tell, I have far more tattoos now and far less hair. But I do realize that, you know, a lot of things I do now, I didn't do back then. And so I'm going to show a little clip now of a good mate of mine, Andrew. He and I train very, very regularly. He's an excellent boxer and a very solid guy. Again, absolutely fearless, doesn't care about getting hurt. So we do a lot of different drills together. We do a lot of boxing together. We go to a boxing club, and at the boxing club, we did an exercise where they got this tire. You put your front foot in the tire and you're boxing close and, you know, in the pocket, sort of phone booth boxing. And Titter was convinced that we should do that. Couldn't find a tire, so he said, all right, we're going to use this weight plate. We both got to keep our foot on the weight plate. So it looks a bit weird, but that's what we're doing here. Again, I'm going to commentate it a little bit, but it pretty much speaks for itself. I'm no expert in boxing, so before anyone jumps down my throat and picks me apart, I'm very new to boxing, and I still have bad habits in that I drop my hands a little bit when I throw my jabs. I'm trying to work on that. But, you know, 20 years of doing the same thing and then trying to relearn something is quite tricky. But having said that, have a look and I'll come back and we'll have a chat. So as you can see, we're both obviously putting our foot on that plate to keep it there. I'm, again, southpaw boxer. I shouldn't be, because technically I'm right-handed, but because of my training, I've always fought with my that lead hand forward. This is hard for me because obviously standing in the pocket is not something I'm used to doing. I like to be able to distance myself and not get hit, but it's so important to be able to stand and trade punches with someone and feel confident there, which is not to say I feel confident. It's just, you know, that's what we're aiming for here. Obviously, Andrew, very good head movement. I really admire that. I've fought him a lot, and his head movement is fantastic. He hasn't been boxing long, but he's just a very natural boxer. Also a very good wrestler, and good at BJJ, but definitely boxing is his forte. He's excellent at it. So this is, just a bit of an example of a drill that we do, and I think it's a great one. It's a good one to learn how to stay in the pocket and not back away, because I think a lot of traditional styles, karate styles, point scoring styles, especially counter strikers like myself, get in the habit of, you know, drawing away and letting someone dictate our pace. And with boxing, you can't let that happen, because they'll just put you in a corner and beat the shit out of you, unfortunately, and it's happened to me many times at my boxing club. So, yeah, this is why we're doing this. Hope that sort of makes sense. You can also probably see from this that because of the backgrounds that I have, I tend to drop my front hand and cover almost like a Philly shell, Mayweather style. So I tend to roll off my front shoulder, which is something that I learned in foot and fist boxing. I didn't even know what a Philly shell was, but you'll notice I use that pretty frequently, which, you know, is just part of my background. And it is effective in boxing, obviously, as Mayweather has proven. So as anyone that's probably a pure boxer watching that can see, you know, I'm not overly comfortable staying in the pocket like that, but it's something that I really feel like I have to work on, in much the same way that I feel I have to work on, you know, my groundwork and so on. And speaking of which, I think something else that I always think about, and obviously in the comments tell me what you think of this, but I've been studying BJJ for a very long time, and I think that one of the most overlooked parts of BJJ is the actual takedown. I think only very few clubs really concentrate on that style of it. And I know at my own BJJ club, we do, my coach brings in a wrestling guy and he does a lot of takedowns as well. And I guess because of my background in judo and submission wrestling, I'm big on takedowns, because I know, you know, from my old job, the importance of being able to take someone down, secure them, get control of them, all those sort of things. So that's a massive thing. And I don't like the idea of people pulling guard. I think that it's, you know, other than in a competition, the actual realistic application of that is next to nothing. If you're in a street fight and you pull guard against more than one person, you're in a world of trouble. Even with one person, if you pull guard onto concrete, it's not fun. So, you know, these are the things I think about. I always think about realistic applications of things. And in future, I want to get into that more. I talk about that a lot with my friends and other martial artists. You know, when I did Hapkido, I remember thinking, like, a lot of the moves and the wrist locks and so on, they're very effective if you can get them on. But the problem is that no one gives you their hand the way that you train it in Hapkido. So when I sparred people in Hapkido, it was almost completely ineffective because I'd throw a jab and they're trying to catch my hand, or that sort of technique just doesn't work against someone that knows how to fight. And I know I'm not trying to bag the style. As a friend of mine who I spoke to last night very concisely said, martial arts is about why you train it. If you're not training to be a UFC fighter, you just want the spiritual side of it, then any martial arts is fine. Any martial arts that teaches you the repetition and the sort of physicality, that's enough for the spiritual side of it. But if you're looking at something from a self-defense point of view, and I always look at things from a self-defense point of view, I think you really need to be realistic about whether or not something can be applied under pressure, which is one of the major reasons I think BJJ is so popular and so effective in that respect, that you can go very hard without hurting someone because they can tap out. In boxing, kickboxing, you can't really go full contact 5 times a week because someone's going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. I don't know how many times I've broken bones and, been knocked out and all that sort of stuff. And you'll notice with a lot of our sparring videos, we don't go full contact because each one of us has a job. Each one of us has a family. No one wants to get hurt. But, half an inch extra on a technique that misses but is close, that will connect. So if I'm throwing a jab and pulling the punch just as it's about to connect, a lot of people looking at that are going, well, you missed. Well, yeah, I did miss, but had I have extended maybe half an inch more, I didn't miss. So that was our theory behind the sparring of foot and fist. And obviously the higher belts went a lot harder. So I'm going to show this next video. This is of one of my very first black belts under me. Also, I've mentioned him before, but one of my very close friends, Min Nguyen. I think he was a black belt at this stage. This is a bit sentimental because I think this was also one of the very last times that we sparred together at my old club in Brisbane. I had come up for a trip to see because when I left, he took over the club. And yeah, it's good to see his style. He never backs away. He's one of the toughest guys I've ever fought because you can hit him with everything you got and he just keeps moving forward. And he's very, very technical. He now does amateur boxing and is just an excellent fighter. So I hope you enjoy this. I'll commentate it a little bit as we go, and then yeah, we'll have a chat after. So this is myself and Min, who was one of my very first black belts and who actually took over the club when I left Brisbane. Very different style. He's a lot more solid, really good combinations, keeps both hands up, because he adapted what we taught traditionally from foot and fist and made it his own. And I mean, that's really what martial arts is all about. It's an expression of yourself. Min, obviously very solid, he very rarely takes a back step, which I really appreciate because he moves forward. So now when he does boxing, that's a great sort of habit to get into. Again, a lot of single strikes from my point of view, so I tend to not throw combinations. I didn't start throwing combos as such until I started doing a lot more boxing, because I'm not an aggressive fighter. I don't really like to just sit and punch away at people. I think it's more about the technique, but that's just myself. I love that little low kick, pretty rare back leg kick for me. And again, using that lead hand constantly. So I throw the hook, the jab off that lead hand because it's my strong hand. So usually in boxing, as you can see here in orthodox, that lead hand, the backhand would be the power hand. But in foot and fist boxing, as I've just switched here, it's now my jab hands. So I hope that sort of makes sense. Because I know that it seems counterintuitive for a boxer to think to put their power hand forward, but that's what we do. So again, Min, very, very good at moving in with his footwork, which is a major component of foot and fist boxing, is that we use our feet to get in and out. I know that sounds very strange, but it's so important. Footwork in any style is very important. Very wide stance we use, mainly because it means I can step away pretty quickly. And use what I call a split step to get away from someone, but I'll explain that at a later point. I love that front kick, I always have. I think I used it against Steve as well, just to get that ranging. Get someone off you so that they can't pressure. It's very psychological. If you can get someone to stop pressuring on by using things like that, then it means that you can start to dictate the pace. Don't know if you saw that, but I was
renowned for thigh punches, which John Jones started to use. I don't know, maybe he copied me. I wouldn't have a clue. I'm just kidding. What have I learned from martial arts? Asked no one ever. Given that I wrote that question, no one asked me that. I just wanted to give a bit of a background and, I guess a bit of an explanation as to what I personally learned from martial arts. And I think someone once said that arts in general is really about telling people that they're not alone. And martial arts to me is very much about that. I want people, whenever I taught at my club, I wanted people to feel part of something bigger than just a fighting style. It's very easy to learn to fight. Just go hit a heavy bag and be really aggressive. And the next time someone gets smart with you, just jab cross. Simple as that. And I simplify it, but martial arts should not be about learning to fight. Martial arts should be about finding something in you that brings inner peace, that brings you confidence and settles your soul a little bit. I know that, my girlfriend does yoga and she says the same thing, that yoga is about finding that inner peace. And the other thing is it's about being comfortable in really uncomfortable situations. I think too many people, like a little bit of discomfort and all of a sudden it's the end of the world and they can't cope with it. And martial arts for me taught me how to be very, very comfortable in really uncomfortable situations. In BJJ, getting crushed by someone bigger than you, it's horrible, but you get used to that. And if you take that lesson into life, there are times in my job now and in my old job where I was scared and I felt uncomfortable, but I knew that I'd get through it. And so I learned to deal with those sort of things. So martial arts for me, that's the biggest lesson. And to be honest, the other thing is it's given me some of the best friends I've ever had. Like all of my friends are martial artists. I've met them through the club, or where I've trained, because we all have that one thing in common. And that is that we want to improve ourselves, that we want to sort of be part of that community. I used to believe that it's because all martial artists had the same moral code, but I don't think that's true. I think that the UFC has, as much good as it's done for martial arts, it's also made people think that martial arts is about fighting and the end goal is to be a UFC fighter or an MMA fighter and all these things. And, of the 100 people, let's say, that do martial arts, maybe one of them is going to become a professional fighter, and that's okay. You should have your own reasons for for doing martial arts. I don't think that the end result has to be fighting. And I think that MMA clubs nowadays are missing that they don't have that traditional core value of, humility and respect and all these things. And I know that I'm generalizing, but to me, I used to follow, and I still do follow, the way of the Bushido. And of the 7 tenets of the Bushido, one of them is humility. And I think we lose that in playing up to our ego of wanting to be better and stronger and beat people and all this sort of stuff, when really, if that's what you're in it for, you're losing the point of martial arts. So I'm hoping that what I learned from martial arts is a loss of ego, inner peace, and the ability to push past what I think I'm capable of doing. So I hope that answers that question a little bit. Please leave your comments. I know that some of the things I say are occasionally controversial, and I could be a lot more controversial, but I don't want to start arguments. Although if there's something someone wants to ask me, feel free. Hope you liked the episode. I'll put more videos up next time on my next episode, but for now, see you later.